Joining me now here in Paris is Clea Chakraverty, a journalist who covers gender at The Conversation. Thanks for your time. Just how significant is Elisabeth Borne's appointment?
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me. Indeed, well, I cover politics at large at The Conversation France, and what we observe, what scholars that we publish usually observe, it is a significant improvement for France, gender parity for sure. However, what it shows, it's also kind of a non-event, given the fact that France is really lagging behind most compared to most European countries. And what is most important is also what kind of role and impact she will have, knowing that she's not known as really a feminist politician.
Now, Edith Cresson, the first female Prime Minister, was quoted last weekend in local media saying whichever woman gets the job needs the best of luck, given the misogyny that still exists in the world of French politics. So clearly not much has changed since Edith Cresson was in power.
Well, I would not probably say that not much has changed, because we can see more women in politics these days. But yes, it is not enough for sure. And the roles they have been not as important as other ministers, for instance, men in general representing politics. So hopefully this can change with this strong signal that President Macron is trying to give. But again, the real question is whether her office will make a real difference in coming days, in coming weeks, and also for the different ministers.
I just want to come back to what you just said. You said that France lags behind when it comes to representation of women in politics. Why is that the case?
Well, it's not so easy to answer that question. It's a structural issue. It's also the fact that French politicians have it's known as a kind of what you call a bit of nepotism. A lot of people feel that French women might not be as good technicians as French men in politics, although many of them come from the similar background, which is the case with Elisabeth Borne, who is a technocrat for many. She hails from the same big schools. However, there is a very strong sexism and misogyny in the French culture as well, and that has to be recognized, and it's also represented in the higher levels.
And the other fact is this country has yet to have a female president.
That's true. However, what we have seen recently with the two elections, presidential elections, 2017 especially, and 2022, and that also what is one of the researchers, Clémence Desouert, has analyzed for us. She hails from the University of Brussels. What she mentioned is the problem is not so much having a French female president, is again what kind of ideas she will lead. And if you think of someone like Marine Le Pen or other very strong female politicians, they're not really for gender parity or equality, or they're not feminist at all. They don't bring with them a feminist agenda. And yeah. Sorry.
I was going to say, but coming back to the fact that Elisabeth Borne will be presiding as Prime Minister in Emmanuel Macron's second term. Now, during his first term, he angered a lot of French feminists in terms of not doing enough to promote equality, despite his much, promise at the beginning of his term that he would do everything to boost gender parity. What can he do? What can Elisabeth Borne do in order to appease that anger among French women activists?
Well, that's a very large question, actually, because a lot of French feminists have seen President Macron's measures or as half measures, basically giving like a few points here and there. We have a lot of people analyzing the fact that most of the responses, to French sexism or what you call violences against women, sexual violences, have just summed up to a few numbers, hotline as they call it, to be a bit caricatural. And a lot of, like the budget, for instance, was not following suit. What Elisabeth Borne could do, at least in her agenda, would be to promote strongly the different kind of measures that feminist organizations have tried to lead so far, especially on sexual violence and on domestic violence, but also like more concrete measures, have a proper budget to use that budget in her own ministry, and also link it to inequalities at large, which is another issue coming up to the whole ecological transition as well.
Clea Chakraverty, again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.